hours long. So these are going to be much sharper and more to the point. So without further ado, let's get going. Tonight's lesson from session is one that I see on a continuous basis, no matter how long I've been in therapeutic practice. It's one that I see in therapeutic practice, but it's also one that I've saw in myself as well. It's one that I've experienced personally. But it's something that happens every time I see a new client, or every time somebody comes to a new group or a new course within the Wellness Seeker. And people often come overwhelmed with difficulty, overwhelmed with the problems that they're holding, overwhelmed with the size of the problems, exhausted from trying to manage them, and feeling like they're just too big. The first thing that often people that come, new clients will come and say is, I don't know where to start. I honestly don't know where to start. It's so big. And that's what I hear time and time again. So that's what we're going to address in this Lessons from Session tonight. It's not as big as you think. So let me show you what I would do. Let me show you some of the way that I would work. And let me show you how you can condense, possibly after this session, your difficulties, your problems. And it's because the one thing that I will try to do for somebody who comes with lots of stories, lots of difficulties, and what they feel is lots of difficulties, as I'll try and condense it. So I know for some of you watching this now that may be an overwhelm, that may have had maybe a difficult Christmas, that maybe aren't really managing whatever's going on inside them too well. That this, you might feel like throwing something at me, you might feel angry at me, you might feel annoyed at me. It's easy for me to say, it's not as big as you think. So let me qualify that. Let me show you what I mean. So let me take you through step by step. One of the most, I'd say, one of the things that shows up constantly, and this is something that comes constantly to session, and it's multiple problems and one behaviour that leads back to one feeling. So let me explain what I mean. So I would see on a consistent basis, and people saying, you know, I have problems in my relationships. I have problems in my marriage, in my partnership. I have problems in that I can't speak up for myself. I can't vocalize what I want. I can't vocalize what I need. The marriage is falling apart. Things are so difficult. I don't know how to manage this. I don't know how to get what I need. I find myself constantly pleasing in the marriage. I find myself constantly placating. I find myself with no voice. I find myself just being a soldier, just kind of shrugging my shoulders and saying, yeah, whatever. But inside, there's this difficulty, there's this anger that's burning, and then that then spills into other pillars of life. Like maybe that problem then goes into the work life, where you cannot get the promotion, you don't get the promotion, you don't want the promotion, you don't go for the promotion, that you feel that you have no value, you feel that you have nothing to add, that you're listening constantly to the whispers in your head that's comparing yourself. And what you find is that where it was one problem, now it's two problems, and it's in your work, and it's in your work, and inside your work, and you feel like you're being overlooked, and you feel like you're not going to get anywhere, and you feel stagnant, and you feel that you're just stuck in this difficult place. And on top of all of that, what you're finding is now it's spilling out into your relationships. It's spilling out into your meaningful relationships, with not just with your partner, but with your friendships. Maybe it's spilling out all you're consistently and constantly pleasing and placating, but you get the message. You have multiple problems here in multiple pillars of life. And in order to manage that, what's happening now is that you're emotionally eating it. You have a behaviour that's trying to soothe those problems. You have a behaviour, maybe it's emotional eating, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's OCD, maybe whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. The point is that you have now a set of behaviours that are trying to manage these ways of being, and you come and you think, and as you're looking at that in your life, you're looking at that and saying, I have this problem with that problem, with that problem, with that problem, and then I have the eating problem, and now I have the weight problem from the eating problem, or now I have the health problem from the drinking problem, or maybe if it's OCD, or maybe God knows what it is, because the behaviour is really only helping you move or soothe or create a different feeling from what you're having. So whatever the problem is, you see that now as another problem. So you can now then say, well, if that problem, I have the eating problem, I have the health problem, I have the weight problem, I have the relationship problem, I have the marriage problem, I have the work problem. And what you do is you look at all of these as different problems. And these are all problems that have to be fixed. These are all problems that must be sorted. And when you do that, and when you look at your life in that way, then you become completely overwhelmed. Does anybody hear me here? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Am I getting this right? Is this what you've experienced, if you have experienced this? Because then what you think then that you have is that you think that you have multiple problems in multiple areas, and then you start to say to yourself, I'm never going to get over this. I'm never going to get out of it. It's never going to happen. How am I going to manage this? It's not going to happen for me. It's too much to do. And where am I going to start? And then you get overwhelmed, and then you get exhausted, and then you don't start anywhere, and then you just fall down thinking that this is the way life is, in the hope that someday that it might get better, but you just don't know where to start and what to do. Let me show you what I would do in this situation. Let me show you what you can do in this situation. If we track back from all of those problems, what I normally find in session is there's normally one or two, sometimes three, but very rarely, core feelings, core issues, core problems, core constructs, call them what you want, call them what you will, but fundamentally beliefs about yourself that are driving a lot. Now, what we'll do is we'll track back, and I will find that core feeling, and this is a great example of a core feeling that speaks to not enoughness, no value, no worth. I'm of no worth, I'm of no value. And when you have that belief about yourself and it's so ingrained in your heart and then so ingrained in your head, then what you find is that you will have multiple problems in multiple areas of your life, and you will find a way of managing those multiple problems in the multiple areas in a behaviour that you don't like and that you don't want, but you're caught in these behaviours. And what I would do with you is that I will be trying to look and put my finger on the core feeling that's driving the lot. Now, if we look at this, if we look at the feeling, I am not enough, I have no value, I'm not worth, then you know where the pleasing's coming from. Then you know where the placating's coming from. Then you can see why you're exhausted. Then you can see why you're not getting your own needs met. Then you can see why you're not happy. Now, if we fix that I'm not enoughness, where does the pleasing go? Where does the placating go? It goes. It stops becoming a feature. It stops becoming something that you do or have to do in order to get worth. It stops becoming because you're getting the feeling of worth. You're getting the feeling of enoughness internally. You fix that yourself. You don't have to look outward for that. Now you begin to fix that, and those behaviours, those start to fall away, and that's one less problem. And we can take that to every pillar that we've talked about, every pillar of life that we've talked about, your internal, your marriage relationship, maybe your partnership, where you're able to articulate what you want. You're starting to get what you need because you feel valuable, you feel worthy, you feel internally that you can do this. Now, if we don't do it like that, you can change a behaviour, but the behaviour will come back in another form if you don't change the source of the difficulty. And so my plea to you is find the source of the difficulty. Don't look at all of the behaviour, don't look at all of the difficulties, all of the problems you have as individuals. What you will find is those problems will probably have one or two roots, that's all. They'll have one or two sources that are driving all of this. And so what that will do for you is it'll help you take a big, deep breath, because you're not fighting all of these fronts. You're not dealing with all of these difficulties. You're dealing with two core feelings at best, core wounds at best, that if switched off will dissipate all of those behaviours. Now, is it a magic button? No. Can you rock up and do it overnight? Absolutely not. Does it take hard work? Does it take endeavour? Does it take, look, it takes so much hard work, but it's better than living a life absolutely filled with these difficulties. It's better than living and adding and continuing to add to the problem pot, as I call it. So if your problem pot is big at the moment, know for sure that there's probably only one or two things driving that problem pot. And if you can get your hands on what those are, then you can be free.